Falls under fair use as it's a parody. If you don't have a sense of humor, go fuck yourself. Welcome. Is this my reality? Is this your reality? In my reality, the sun didn't look like this. But then again, my reality wasn't this fucked up. Before we go any further, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, smash the notification bell. This is all to protect your private property rights. Maybe. Uncontrollable flames are ravaging swaths of Canadian forest in what authorities have described as a devastating wildfire season that could become the worst the country has ever seen. The United States' northern neighbor is home to some of the world's densest forests, and it experiences wildfires every year. But this year, the fires have been particularly widespread, numerous, and intense, burning through millions of acres in Canada. There are 423 active fires across Canada, and 246 of them are out of control, according to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center.
Currently, we're seeing about 100,000 acres burn. You were just talking about the wildfires up in Michigan. They're kind of spread fairly evenly across the country, fairly widespread. But as you did mention, Bridget, it's the friends to the north that are really seeing the wildfire activity.
Did he just giggle?
And it's covering basically the entire continent from the Atlantic Ocean all the way over towards the Pacific. And some of these fires really going, 213 of them currently active.
So what is causing these wildfires in central Canada? Various factors can ignite a wildfire, typically starting with either lightning or, most likely, human activity, like throwing a burning cigarette on the ground, leaving a campfire unattended, things that stupid humans do. Now, these fires, they're most likely to catch when the ground is dry, the air is hot, which is why wildfire season typically lasts through the summer. Okay, here we go. Climate change also plays a role by causing high pressure zones, which bring elongated periods of sunny, hot conditions and exacerbate drought. The rash of blazes, intensified by record heat in many areas, is an ominous sign of the ill effects of climate change, which are not confined to Canada. Or maybe it was this. Toxic smoke from the Canadian wildfires is pouring into the U.S. East Coast and the Midwest on Wednesday. New York City's air was more polluted than any other major worldwide city. That includes China and India, as thick smoke from the wildfires burning hundreds of miles away in Canada was set to continue to choke much of the Northeast through the weekend. Look, I can see it right here. Through the weekend, it's like hell on earth. The ominous orange haze, I would say hellish looking, crept over the city for the second day as all 5 boroughs were placed under an air quality health advisory until Thursday. So is this just how it's going to be? Is climate change going to cause these massive wildfires? Or is there something else more nefarious behind the scenes? Is there another agenda? Well, let's take a look.
Tubbs fire began in Northern California, and by the time the sun came up, over 1,000 homes were destroyed. Videos and photographs show how this so-called forest fire seemed to spare the wild and somehow jump from house to house. Wildfire began in California. It has all the same anomalies as the Tubbs fire and is already twice as devastating. Many people are asking the same question: is this an attack? It just so happens that these strange California fires seem to all be within the proposed no human use areas.
The first step was Agenda 21. Agenda 21 was a quote-unquote voluntary, non-binding action plan that is allegedly focused only on fostering sustainable development around the globe. The UN plan was adopted by a grand total of 178 countries in 1992. Agenda 21 and the movement geared to push rural and suburban residents into cities appear to many to be extremely closely related. Years later, Agenda 2030 has emerged. Advocates of Agenda 21 are deeming the program a big success, but only one step in a master plan to create a global sustainable community. In September, leaders from around the world gathered in New York City to present a new 15-year plan to oversee the use of land, both public and private, on a global scale. Transforming our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development boasts essentially the same goals as Agenda 21, but digs even deeper with its intentions to control the way property is used. Some have referred to Agenda 2030 as Agenda 21 on steroids. The goals of this document are nothing more than code words for a corporate government fascist agenda that will imprison humanity in a devastating cycle of poverty while enriching the world's most powerful globalist corporations like Monsanto, like DuPont. Nowhere does this UN document state that achieving human freedom is one of its goals. Neither does it explain how these goals are to be achieved. Instead, the 17 points in the UN agenda are to be achieved through centralized government control and totalitarian mandates that are closely aligned with communism. Hypothetically, how would you get the world to go along with Agenda 2030? I mean, how would you get most of the world to just go back to the Stone Age while our rich overlords fly around in private jets and eat caviar? How do you get them to fall for that? Well, you do what you've been doing for centuries. You burn them out, right? You make damn sure everybody sees it. We need to put the fear of the climate gods in their heads. And if we could do something about population control while we're at it, even better. So make sure there's toxic smoke going everywhere. What about that smoke? So why are we having all these wildfires and why are we having all these trains crash with all these toxic chemicals? Well, breathing smoke during or even following a fire is hazard because not all materials burn cleanly, resulting in a toxic smoke and soot being produced. These substances can be extremely harmful to anyone breathing them in, just like we are now. Different types of fires release different substances. Every fire produces smoke that contains carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and particulate matter, which is microscopic solids or liquids suspended in the smoke. These particulates, get this, have the ability to penetrate into lungs, into the bloodstream, and may cause DNA mutations. I don't think that means you're going to turn into one of the X-Men. Heart attacks and other serious issues. Depending on the type, specific fires can contain toxic materials such as, strap yourselves in for this one, aldehydes, acid gases, cyanide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, benzene, everyone's favorite, toluene, styrene, various metals, and dioxins. When doesn't that just sound good? Ugh. Are these fires part of Agenda 2030? At the UN Biodiversity Conference in Montreal in early 2023, world leaders agreed to a plan to turn, get this, 30% of the Earth into protected areas by 2030. So, what are these protected areas? What are they really? Because I know they're bullshitting us. In many parts of the world, a protected area is where the local people, who called the land home for generations and generations, are just quite simply no longer allowed to live. They're not allowed to use the natural resources, the natural environment, to feed their families, to gather medicinal plants, or to visit their sacred sites. Now, this follows the model the United States used in the 19th century, the creation of the national parks on lands we took from the Native Americans. Many U.S. national parks, they forced people who had created the wildlife-rich wilderness into landlessness and poverty. And that's what they're going to do to each and every one of you if you don't pay attention. This idea of fortress conservation, as it's called, that local people must be removed from their land in order to protect nature, listen to that, is kind of colonial, and I thought you guys didn't like that stuff. It's environmentally damaging and rooted in racism and eco-fascism, if you really think about it. Which people are worth more and which are worth less and can be pushed off their land and impoverished or attacked and killed just so the elites can benefit. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Look, I know many of you are religious, many of you aren't, many of you believe in the supernatural, many of you don't, but this sun, I took this with my own camera, is fucking freaky. This looks like the shit you read about in the Bible where the end of days are coming. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it looks like it. That may sound good to some of you, but let me read you something. Let me read you how they want your future to be. This is called Welcome to 2030. I'm going to read it to you verbatim, and then tell me you're not creeped the fuck out. Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say, our city. I mean, I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes. In our city, we don't even pay any rent because someone else is using our free space whenever we do not need it. My living room is used for business meetings when I'm not even there. Once in a while, I get annoyed about the fact that I have no real privacy, nowhere I can go and not be registered. I know that somewhere, everything I do, everything I think, everything I dream of is recorded. I just hope no one will ever use it against me. All in all, it's a good life. Who the fuck thinks this sounds good? That sounds awful. Who wants to live like that? I'd rather you feed me to the sharks. If you think this is something that people are going to line up for, I got a news flash for you. So no matter how many people you burn out of their homes, how many people you force to go away, we're not going along with this. This is fucking crazy. We are not saying that the United Nations is burning down Canada in order to do a land grab for their protected areas. We're not saying that. But we're not saying they're not, right? Anything is possible. Everything they tell you is a lie. Trust, but don't trust. Verify. Look into these people. Follow the money trail. There's some shady shit going on, okay? What say you? Leave a comment down below. Now let's get the fuck out of here. But wait, did you see this?